Roxy, honey, oh my goodness, you look stunning. I just want to take a moment and just look at you for a second. I hope everyone's watching this. I know you can listen to it on audio as well. And if you're like me, I am an audio girl because I am doing the most. And so are you as well. But if you guys get a chance, if there's a video to watch, it is this one with Roxy over here because she is so gorgeous. Girl, you make perimenopause look divine, look hot.
I mean, right back at you, Mama. Seriously, I was just, for those who don't know, I was just gushing over how beautiful. Well, you are. It's not that you look, that you are, but you are radiating. And I think it's such a statement to say that, you doing the work that you're doing, it shows that you really are so rooted in this work from a place like it's like your dharma, like it's from a place of true love. And I'm excited to be here from you. You're glowing. And thank you for that intro.
You're welcome, girl. It's also hot, so I'm probably glistening a little over here is what's going
Here.
on. It's more
115 in
than just
Vegas
the
is no
bronzer.
joke.
Okay, I want to start this beautiful conversation with you today with a question I'm asking all my ladies here, which is, would you be open? You and I have talked at length about perimenopause as both being in perimenopause. We're kind of on the same track, different experiences because every woman is, but could you share with us what has been your perimenopausal experience? And has there been some like pretty big aha moments, some big recalibrations that you've had to do or that you've been able or got to do?
Yeah, such a great question. And I think I can contribute to this, with a lot of detail because I am someone that's very connected to my body. And, I'm 46 currently, just turned 46 this year. And because I'm so connected to my body, I pay attention to everything. And over the last 6 years specifically, I can say that there were, it kind of starts as like subtle noticings and then all of a sudden it kind of manifests into, more outstanding experiences that are just, a sort of undeniable, like, oh, there's really a physiological, biological shift taking place within me. I feel like the first noticing was just how much more recovery I've needed. Now I am an athlete by way of life, so I'm very physical. I have a variety of sports. Track is a very big one for me. Track, sprinting, jujitsu. I lift consistently throughout the week, so I'm very, very physically active. What I noticed is that I went from being able to train twice a day, no problem, to maybe not twice a day all the time. Maybe I can get away with some hot yoga and lifting in the day or something, but I just kind of had to tone it down a little bit more, which is not to say that it took away from my athleticism or my power. It was more to say that, hey, my body was like, I need more food, I need more rest, I need kind of more recovery ultimately, and gratefully, because vitality is a huge part of my life, I honor that recovery. I will say that the mental fatigue that also started to develop at times, like that was probably more than anything the frustrating piece at times for me, because it's weird when your physical body is like, hey, wait, like I want to go, but your mind's like, I'm having a hard time here, and this could manifest as like brain fog at times, and it certainly has, but not even brain fog. It's more of like just sometimes, I mean, honestly, girl, even today, and listen, it's probably important to insert this. I operate at a very high pace in life.
You do. And
I
that's why I wanted
probably,
you on this show or this event because you're operating at a higher level. And I think what you're looking for, it's just brain energy,
yes,
brain capacity. That's
yeah,
what it feels like. I think a lot of our energy is mental energy.
yes.
And I think, especially for us women, I think we're discovering that women's brains work more than men. I feel like there's some research coming out on that. And it's that there are days where I have a lot of the physical energy, but the mental energy just isn't there.
Yeah, exactly. And that, it's hard when you have high standards and you love meeting those standards, and you create a life that demands a lot from you. Like I intentionally create that life. So that was, at periods of times it's hard, especially when you really got to show up,
Yeah.
and like produce today, before this talk, I've already just done 2 podcast episodes, it's kind of like 2 keynotes in a way. So, it's you kind of meet these moments and then you move into these like an acceptance acceptance. And then it's like, cool, how do I optimize for this now? And that actually has become somewhat of like a fun journey for me, because in the noticing and the discovery of these shifts that I have experienced through, especially specifically through my 40s, it's where I started to, being the geek that I am about all things biology. And I was like, I need to really learn about the cycle, like the menstrual cycle, and like what is ultimately happening. And then, you start to get into areas of like what, the follicular, the luteal, the late luteal, and how that affects how, how to optimize your schedule for that if you can. And, you start getting to play with all of this stuff, which has been so fun for me to learn over the last several years. But I think what I just shared, those are the biggest pieces. And then of course there's certainly been, I mean, just even with my period, like seeing the shift in that. I was never this girl who, I didn't grow up having a hard period. I didn't have cramps. I didn't have a lot of, those symptoms that a lot of women unfortunately can have, and especially girls at a young age. I didn't have that. In my 40s, especially I would say like in the last 3 years, it started to shift where, menstrual flow certainly heavy, but cramping to the point where sometimes I literally am hanging over the sink like I'm gonna throw up, like what's happening here? And you and I, so grateful to you, because I just want to say this on record. For those that don't know, girl, you're the real thing on and off, like on and off air. You're like all the support that you put out, like what you're doing right now and where it comes from. It's so real, because offline, I mean, lucky me, I get to ask you questions, and it's not just the answers that you give me and the knowledge and all of the support. It's where I feel it comes from with you. Like you're truly, I have full body chills right now. Like you are really here in service of women. So I am so grateful that I have the opportunity to just insert that. But yeah, you and I have had the conversation about, just, I mean, like balancing hormones, right? Estrogen dominance, progesterone. So that's also been something that, because of the shifts through perimenopause, I've been, having to learn more about and to play with more in my lifestyle and in ways to optimize my hormones so that, I can offset those symptoms. And the last thing that I think is important to just say here, because this is really, none of perimenopause, the symptoms that, even the challenges, I don't take any of this as like a negative. Everything to me is an opportunity for me to get closer to myself. And sometimes it's the physical body that invites us to do that, because we are humans living in a physical world. We're not just spiritual and consciousness, right? And so I embrace all of it. I don't see any point of my menstrual cycle, whether in the month or in the decade of my life, as some kind of handicap, like as some kind of, moment where, I become less than, or it's a hardship for me, which isn't to say that some moments can't be hard, but I want to insert that because I feel that it could be empowering the whole way through, especially if the focus or the idea is that regardless of what I'm going through, the highs, the hards in this, the unfolding of my menstrual cycle, all of it is allowing me to get closer to myself.
I love that. I love that. One of the reasons, I had many reasons for inviting you onto this to share your expertise, and really that the self-confidence, the knowing of oneself, and most importantly, the mindset. And when I thought about like the level of mindset that we get to step into in this transition, it requires us to do some work. And it can be so hard when we're in it, when we're in the symptoms, or we're in, a lot of what I hear from women, and it's happened to me at times where I have felt like a fraction of myself, that the symptoms have been so intense. And recovery is a big part of that journey, and pivoting has been a big part of that journey. But what has anchored me the deepest into this journey, in a very positive way, is the mindset that I get to embody. Because as you know, this is a good half of our lives. Like there's a lot more life to live, after this transition. And when I was thinking about who I wanted to have on here for mindset, it was you, especially because you are literally in the lived experience of this journey right now, owning that mindset. And so as you have been moving through, and one of the things you said is like getting closer to yourself. And I would love to hear more about that and how we can do that. Because I think sometimes women feel like they lose themselves in this journey, that they don't even recognize themselves anymore. But then also in the come through of that work of knowing yourself, are you also asking yourself, like, who do I need to become? Or what would I love more? Like, are there specific questions, Roxy, that you are asking yourself as you know you are transitioning, you know that your body's changing, you know that your body is requiring a different level of tending to, right? What would that
Totally.
be?
Yeah, well, the question specific to this zone of conversation that I love asking myself is how can I make things easier on myself right now? Like if
Mm.
you're going through something hard, especially something physical, don't make it harder on yourself. I mean, don't ever make it harder on yourself, really. But specifically, because I insert this because sometimes I've found that women, when something is going quote unquote wrong with their body, they become angry at their bodies. And that is the last thing that you want and need to do. That is not going to help you. It's your body is speaking to you in the only way that your body knows how. It cannot have a conversation like this, right? So how else is it going to communicate with you? And when you shift that perspective of like, oh, my body's looking out for me. My body is letting me know that there's an imbalance, there's a disharmony in here. And being mad at that is kind of like, hey, don't talk to me. You know what I mean? Like is what you're kind of telling your body, right? That is in
Mhm.
no way going to help you at all, just mentally, but certainly not physically as well. So I said, this is why it's like getting closer to yourself. What do I need to make this easier on myself? Like,
I love
if
that
you're someone, if
question.
you're going through a headache, right? Like, how can I calm the noise around me so that I can quiet myself within, that I can create more stillness within and, ease this pain that I'm kind of moving through? I mean, there's so many different examples. It depends on what the symptoms and what you're feeling are, but ultimately that is the main question. I mean, the question of who do I need to become? I think that's always the question, kind of, it's like this omnipotent question about, how do you build the life that you want to experience? But I think specific to the
I
conversation that
know
we're
it's a bigger, more intense question. I'm always like,
oh, which I love
well, and
because
what we started with, you're like this, the standard is a standard. So who do I need to become? Like, but I loved your question. I remember in that moment that you said it, I was like, oh, what? Yeah. Like,
yeah.
why didn't I think of that? Like,
Well,
why did I think to just
because
make it
we're
easier on me?
well, especially if you're a hard-driven woman. This is important. I'm glad you said that. Meaning, like, you're a high-performing woman, you have high demands of yourself, and certainly your life has of you. You're in this hyper-masculine energy, and it's not to say that masculine is always like it's the energy that's hard in you, but that compassion piece that is part of the feminine principle,
Mm,
it's not the default setting for a lot
mm-mm.
of reasons in women and just in general. But it's actually the most badass thing that you could do for yourself because it's like you giving yourself a big hug right when you need it most instead of pushing yourself when you're already feeling, pushed around, right? That framework, that perspective, that filter, that action, again, full body chills, it shifts the relationship that you have with yourself. And the more that you do that, the more that you get closer to yourself, the more that you build self-trust. That's actually a really important component here because a lot of times when you are going through, well, any challenge, but again, specific to the conversation we're having, when there is a physical ailment, there's a physical symptom, something is not feeling good, to have trust in yourself that you are able to get through this, that there is light at the end of this tunnel, that there is a solution, that there is an answer, that there is a remedy, that there is, some kind of feel good outcome that exists for you. Like you have to hold trust within yourself that you can get through this. Like you know what I mean? Like what you don't do is you don't abandon yourself in the middle of a challenge, in any challenge. But again, specific to this conversation, when you're going through something hard, you being there, holding compassion for yourself, how can I make this easier on myself right there? You're actually, without realizing it, but you're actually forging more trust within yourself. And I don't know about you, but to me, I don't know. I don't even want to know what life is without strong levels of self-trust. I don't. The work every day is how do I continue to build the trust that I have within myself so that I can move through every experience of my life, the highs and the hards, in partnership with myself.
I know that women are listening right now and they're thinking, oh, Gosh, I don't know if I have a lot of trust in myself or definitely a lot of confidence in myself. Like, I don't know what is going on. And I can see the question of like, how can I make this easy on myself? But I know that there are some women listening are thinking, well, how do I even do that? Like, how do I even do that if I've always chosen the hard, or I've always beaten myself up and that's always kind of the default mode, or I don't have enough time to even consider any of that. And so would that first step be sitting down and journaling? Would it be thinking about that question while we're walking, creating some free space for ourselves? What would be that first step? I'm going to really get granular here because I know that there's some women listening who are like, I don't know if I know how to do that.
Yeah, no, so great. Such a great question. I mean, journaling always, yes, and we can totally expand on that because you know how I feel. I'm a
I
life
know you love it. I love
diarist.
it too.
I know. We both are diarists, and we know the efficacy, the value of it. I would actually just start by saying, how do you want to be loved?
Mhm.
How would you like to be loved by anybody from the outside in this moment? How would you want them to speak with you? How would they, how could they be there for you? And whatever that is, can you offer that to yourself? So if it's a loving conversation, an encouraging conversation, if it's a hug, can you offer that to yourself in that moment? Because everyone's situation is going to be different, like meaning challenge,
Absolutely.
right? So there's no one answer here, but to me, the first step would just be, because everyone's also going to feel their needs in that moment, to soothe them, to create more of that comfort, to invite deeper connection with self. Everyone's going to need something different to produce that. And it's all gonna, what everyone will pull on is what makes me feel loved, what makes me feel loved, what makes me feel seen, heard, and felt. And if you don't know how to give that to yourself, I would bet money that you know how you would like that to come at you from somebody in your life. So just imagine that somebody. What does that look like? And there's a really good chance that you would be able to give that exact thing or a part of that to yourself. Again, a lot of times it's going to come down to your self-talk, and this is where journaling can come into the picture because, okay, if you don't have an easy time just, pivoting the conversation in your mind, just in your mind, like I need to turn a disempowered conversation into an empowered conversation. That's where you take the pen, you go tangible, you get the notebook, the diary, the journal, whatever it is, and you start having a conversation with yourself. And don't judge that conversation. If you're pissed, if you're angry, if you're hurt, if you're sad, if you're any of all of that, you're confused, you don't know, I'm insecure. Don't judge yourself. Just share with yourself. Again, imagine you're having a conversation with someone that you know is not going to judge you, that you can totally trust, and that is so there to listen to you. Imagine that's what you're doing, because the truth is that is what your journal is. Your journal is 24/7, 365. Girl, I got you. Let it out. Doesn't matter what it is. I'm not going to judge you. Take your time. Go as long as you need to. I'm here for the full story. I mean, it's like low hanging fruit. It's right there. A lot of times, why somebody doesn't go to the journal? Well, because first of all, they may be judging themselves out the gate, meaning they're already going to be judging the conversation that they're going to be, or what they want to write. I always like to insert, so instead of judgment, can you trade judgment for curiosity? Because curiosity keeps us open. And when we're open, we can learn. And when we can learn, we can grow, right? And that's just really overall in life, right? Trading judgment for curiosity, but specifically in this specific area that we're talking about now. And I also think that sometimes it's this discomfort of wanting to face what you're feeling, and okay, I totally feel compassion for that. I get that. But how long can you run from yourself for? I mean, the one thing that I know for sure, the one thing is that you're in you until you're out of here. I'm in me until I'm out of here. So it's probably a good idea, albeit maybe very challenging, to get into a loving, trusted, and revered relationship with yourself, and how do you do that? Well, it's not by running away from yourself. It's by running towards yourself, even when shit feels hard and, it just like, it hurts. It's okay. Like, you'll survive. We'll be all right. But the more that you run from yourself, you're just actually extending that pain, because you're disconnecting from yourself every single time that you do that. And that will never, ever feel good. And it certainly won't get you, to the goal, which is to build that self-trust. thoughts to hold true self-confidence and to operate with absolute self-love.
Yeah, I think that those, gosh, if there's, like you said, there's really nothing more valuable than that, is having that self-confidence, having that self-trust. And during a time where you're navigating so many changes and pivots, and honestly, I always say this is a bit of a reckoning because everything is up for review. And I think for good reason. I think things that we may have tolerated or we were okay with, and now we're not okay with because it isn't in alignment with our own love or what we believe to be true for ourselves, like it gets to come up for review. And I think the best way that we can do that is really trusting in ourselves that we're divinely guiding ourselves in the right direction. I feel like I would say that there's no sacred cows in this transition. Like everything is up for review. And I love that. And it can be scary too. But yes, if we're aligned with what we know is true for ourselves and loving ourselves, that deep, like knowing, I feel like we will be on the right path. We'll make that right decision for who we become and what we want and what fuels us up, all those things, so that we're living a life that we truly desire.
It's perfectly beautifully put. I will put a bow on that by using one of my quotes. You can't make a wrong move when you make a true move. And those are the only moves that come from the heart. You can't make a wrong, it removes the judgment around your decision and keeps you in an empowered or, state. Like you're either going to be moving from an empowered state or a disempowered state, right? And the empowered move is the true move. And that is the move from the heart. How do you get close to your heart? Well, you don't do it by running from yourself. You got to run towards yourself. Again, even when it hurts, even when it's hard, even when you're confused, even when you're scared, even when you don't know how, well, you can try. And I always say inches make the mile. Like it doesn't, I'm not promoting this, idea of a self bond, which is my term for it, to be some kind of easy overnight process. No, I mean, even me, who's so deep in the game, who certainly has forged this self bond that I speak to, there's no period at the end of this sentence. It's a life game. It's a dot, dot, dot. It's a comma, right? But it's that continuous investment in this relationship with self that, I'm here to share and that I believe is of service to every one of us. I mean, what opposes that, to not be in a very healthy, harmonized relationship with yourself? What kind of decisions are you going to be making from that relationship then? You're going to be disconnected from your heart, and sometimes maybe that is the path to actually get on the path of where you need and want to be. You know what I mean? It's like you learn that, like, oh, that hurt, that sucks, so maybe I need to go this way. And sometimes that is the route. And I have respect for that too.
As long as we learn that lesson.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And not repeat the pattern.
Exactly. Because then it's still a win, right? It's not a, end of story fail. It's, an opportunity that leveraged your growth,
Yeah, I love that. I want to bring it full circle to, you coming from that place of self-trust and self-confidence and obviously that deep self-knowing, that from there, you're able to tune into your body and listen to your body because you trust in it. And then you take action from that place of knowing yourself. And so I love that. As I mentioned, kind of how we started this conversation was that a lot of women get angry with their bodies or they blame themselves. So society has taught us to blame ourselves to begin with. Like, this is all your fault. And no, our bodies are changing without permission. I'm just letting you all know, like, it's happening. And we get to listen to the way that our body's responding to these changes and then make actions that feel the most aligned with our recovery, with our health, with our vitality. And so Roxy, honey, I would love for you to kind of share some of those things for us, how you make those decisions for yourself when you're checking in. Let's say it's week 4, you're heading into your period, right? And a friend of mine, and Dr. Stephanie Steven, she on Instagram, she's like, tell me you're in week 4 without telling me you're in week 4. And I was like, girl, everybody knows when I'm in week 4. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, the whole family knows, okay? That is, especially in peri, that late luteal phase can feel like a bit of a reckoning. And so in that moment, obviously what we do, our recovery is changing, how we nourish our body is changing, our self-care may shift and change as well. Because, in terms of optimizing our cycle, I always find regular kind of pre-perimenopausal years, for a lot of us, like you said, kind of your cycle ebbs and flows, nothing spectacular, nothing to really note. But then you get into the rough waters of the Pacific Ocean, and that is perimenopause. And all of a sudden, the journey gets a lot bumpier.
Coming to my mind, like the river rafting.
Exactly. You're trying to stay on the boat. Okay. Okay. And so things are more accentuated, so to speak, as you were talking about earlier. And so in the knowing that you trust your body, right?
Yes.
In these changes, that your body is this ultimate wisdom
Yep.
and that it's directing you, even though you really wanted to do jujitsu. Like you woke up
Yeah.
and you were like, I'm going to go at it. But your body's like, no, you're not, girl.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not today. How
Yeah.
do you reframe that? And how do you shift
Yeah.
into doing things that are good for you in the sense of like that recovery?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I lead with love and respect.
Mhm.
First of all, I lead with love and respect. So it's not, and honesty. That's so huge,
Mhm.
right? I'm going to play myself here. Like, it's like, look, I know that I'm not someone who makes excuses. I know that I'm not someone who doesn't know how to ask hard things of myself. I'm not that person. I'm the opposite of that. So if I wake up one day in week 4 and I'm just tired, I'm going to honor that tired and I'm going to do whatever I need to do to keep my energy levels in a place where I want and need them to be to the best of my ability. So if that's, I need an extra meal, I need more protein. If that's, I'm certainly, and this is a truth for me, I'm way more introverted. I'm not on social media. I don't give a shit. Like, I'm just like, I become like somewhat more of a recluse because I just want to be like thinking more and with myself more. And that's a big thing for me. So even in saying that, my schedule is, maybe I'm less social and I don't have guilt around that. And I know that that's a hard one because there could be a lot of guilt around it. But again, when you lead with love and honesty and respect for yourself, then you can work. The guilt thing doesn't, even if it comes in and tries to trigger you, you're like, nah, I know what I need for me right now, and I know that this is a very specific part of my month that, I give myself permission to take this rest, to adjust this way, to be less social, period, end of story. If people don't understand, like, then that's okay. That's not on me. I know I need to do what I need to do for me. Yeah. And I think, what else can I offer? It's really just that I think the big piece, like if you really feel into what I said, is that I lead with love, respect, and honor, because that sets the table, that sets the tone, right? So that whatever it is that you need to do, you're not doing it from a place of frustration, resentment, feeling shame, guilt, like I can't, and I think it's also, again, this kind of goes back to something I said earlier. I make sure of this is so huge to me, just because I know that can take place where we're just going to focus on the 4th week, because I know that my body can be more tired, that I can want, feel less social, I might be more hungry, like all of the symptoms that can come into play. I don't bring that on like mentally. Like if I meet those feelings, those symptoms, then I adjust. But I will tell you right now that I've also been in week 4 where I've hit a PR on the track, where I've been the most social, like, our girl, Dr. Gabrielle Lyons event. I didn't even realize, and I was so like just having the best time in January that, I came home and the next day I started my cycle, like I started my period, but meanwhile, like the 3 days before I was Miss Socialite, like, you know what I mean? But my point is to say that I think it's really important, again, the mindset girl here, is that we don't want to just create, and this is, I'm not saying that there's not a reality to this. Again, very, very clear here that stuff does happen, right? These symptoms, these feelings. And when they do, I respect them and I adjust accordingly. But I also make sure that I'm not looking ahead going, oh, I'm going to be tired because it's week 4. You're not pre-planning the symptom. That's the key statement. I'm not pre-planning the symptom. I am ready to roll if and when that symptom comes through, but I'm certainly not going to prime my mindset to bring that on, because I don't know about you, but like every month, especially in the perimenopause, like it's just different.
Yeah.
Really.
I love the set the table. I love that. That is so perfect. I think we all need to write that down on a piece of paper and put it in the bathroom so we can see it every day on the mirror. Just like leading with, with honoring our body, with respecting our body, with trusting our body and love. And that's where we start.
Yes.
And make decisions from there.
Exactly.
And I think that is if there was anything, there's so much to take from this, but that is the thing. Like we just get so lost in our shame. We get so lost in our guilt. We get so lost in, I'm supposed supposed to do this. Like I need to do this, all this, what we've been taught, what we've been conditioned to believe. That's how we set the table. We set the table with those things. And so then we come into this day, just gritting our way through it. And we're not winning, but
no,
we're
you're
not winning for
bullying
that.
yourself. You're actually bullying yourself.
That's exactly what it is.
Right.
I've spent so many years bullying myself.
Girl, I do. Trust me. I mean, there's a reason why I can speak about this with conviction. It's not like I learned it in the book. It's because I've learned it in life. And I know what that side feels like. And I know what the other side feels like. And damn, this other side is so much more delicious.
I love that. Let's stop
Oh,
bullying
delicious.
ourselves,
Oh,
please. Please, let's stop bullying ourselves. Let's start treating ourselves with the respect that we deserve, especially in this transition where, again, that up for review, that this is up for review. The bullying is up for review. The negative self-talk, it's up for review. Like what hasn't been, like, has that been working? Like, is it really doing something for you? Like, I think those are the questions we really get to ask ourselves in this transition, and then honoring ourselves through action as well.
Totally. And it's so empowering. Like I know we're time, but I'm just inserting this, like, look, if you know that, let's just say your stress capacity week 4 is hard, like or less, you have less capacity.
No, mine's like the toilet, someone flushed it, it's gone, girl. What capacity?
Well, you're probably set up for the mental bullying it's like anxiety. I mean, that's a real thing that comes in.
That is real. Yeah. And just a real quick confession. I'm in week 4 right now.
Are you really?
I am in it. I felt it's like a transition that happens. It's like, zoom.
And you're a gangster.
I am like, oh, this must be week 4.
Well, I would not even know. But yeah, I think it's, that was a big thing for me is when I really learned about like even the psychological component, like the shifts of serotonin and all that happens in your, oh my God, that was so helpful because it's like, oh, it's not all in your head. It's actually your body. So how do I accommodate? Again, that question, how can I make it easier on you right now? Right? Because you're going through it and I don't want to fight you. I want to fight for you. And that's a huge, literally a viral quote of mine. Stop fighting yourself. Start fighting for yourself.
One of the things I do, especially when I'm heading into this week, in particular late luteal, is I do let people, I let my partner know, I let my husband know, I'm like, hey, going in. And I'm just going to need extra support.
Yes.
I'm not going to be able, I take my mama role very seriously, as you know, as all mamas know, right? Like women know, mamas know. And I'm going to need more support in the nighttime routine. I'm going to need more support in those moments, where I'm just going to need a break. Like last night, how I knew I started is usually I'll have a migraine to kick off the late luteal phase. And that'll be like the guaranteed sign, just like it's coming for you, girl. So I told, I let everybody know. I'm like, well, I have a migraine today. So just a heads up, like my brain is split in half. So this is how we're going to operate. And, can you please take the nighttime routine, the bedtime routine for me so that I can just get to bed sooner. I can shake this thing off. And so it's, for me, it's that gentleness around just my vulnerability and just straight communication about where I'm at and what I need.
It's so important. And I don't know about you, but like, having girlfriends too, that, cause I can think of conversations like with my closest girls where it's like, I'm just, I'm about to start my period. Like that's like the start of the conversation. And it's like immediately, your friend is just like, who gets it, especially in these years. It's like, okay, girl, just unleash. Like I'm here. Like it's all good.
That is a set the table moment too. You're like, let me set the table before we start this conversation.
It really is though. And it's so nice to have, your sisters who really just get you and can hold space for you in that moment, because you might just be like, you just need to, whatever, talk about anything that's going to just help you to kind of settle whatever the disharmony, the anxiety, any of that, within. So I think, if you can even just one really tight, bestie, sister, girlfriend who, who respects that is a reality, like that we all go through. I think it's really helpful.
Yeah, actually, that was my last question for you today, was because you are so amazing you're just an incredible everyone deserves a friend like you, right? You were so freaking amazing. And friendship is something that I know that you highly value and that you covet and that you treat dearly. And this is a time where a lot of women feel very isolated. They feel like they're going this journey alone. And, you like right before I asked the question, you sauntered right into like having those friends, being able to call your bestie, see them in real life, or get on a call or even voice memo, whatever it is, to just have that chance for someone to hold you in that space, who knows you. Like, I feel like that's probably one of the best tools in our toolbox that we could have is people we can rely on, our girlfriends.
1,000%. You don't have to censor yourself. You're not worried about, oh, am I, unleashing a vibe on them, or like, it's like, no, because your real ones are like, fuck that. But, sorry, not sorry, but like, I know
They
what
know
you
you, like you can hold the container.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
vice versa.
Exactly. I think it's so, and even pulling on that a little bit, it's like, so that's it. You want to give that to yourself too, right? Like that feeling, like kind of everything we were talking about, but certainly having your girlfriends, who could just console, like who could just hold space for you in those moments. Again, even if it's just one friend, but someone that you could fully be naked with, like you're not worried about being judged. You could just be yourself in that moment, very pure. I think that's it's just, first of all, a very beautiful experience, but a very powerful and supportive one as well for everything that we're talking about, and really just in life, like straight up.
Roxy, honey, it was such a pleasure to have you. I just feel like I walked away with so many just downloads of how to operate. And I feel like even when we feel like we're operating in this way of ease and grace and love, you just have this way of kind of resetting the table and like resetting the way that we can think about it in a beautiful and self-loving way. So I'm so grateful to have you on.
I'm so grateful. I love you. And again, like I'm saying this it's all truth with me, but you're the real thing. And I feel so lucky to have you in my life on a personal level too, because talking about that girlfriend and, where we just were, it's like, I know I can make that call to you. I know that we're also both like, I know we're living around time. I love our voice notes. That's all I'm going to say. And all I want to say to the world, to everybody who's watching or listening to this, is that, like, again, just putting so much emphasis that you are truly the real thing, and that your goal with everything that you do in your work is truly of service to women who are taking you in. So thank you for you, period. And thank you for allowing me to contribute to this. I mean, it's so special. You're just so special.
Oh, so are you. Thank you, honey.
Thank you so much for watching. Now, if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you are ready to learn more about perimenopause and how to navigate with a lot of ease and grace, be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you can join our community. Don't forget to share this video with someone that you love, that you know is navigating the perimenopause journey as well, because they deserve to feel their best too. See you in the next video.